welcome to Critical Junction, episode 49. I'm Mark.
I'm Luke.
I'm Jill.
And on January 25th, 2017, the prophet of alternative medicine and living embodiment of pseudoscientific nonsense, Deepak Chopra, appeared as the keynote speaker for the Children's Autism Services of Edmonton's 9th annual conference for some reason, to the dismay of actual health professionals, delivering a lecture entitled The Future of Well-Being, tickets for which sold for upwards of $217 apiece. Chopra, a proponent of ideas like quantum healing and other woo-like, how aging can be controlled by metabolizing time, that cataracts can be reversed with a mixture of spat-out toothpaste and tongue scrapings, and further unfounded assertions, is a self-professed self-help guru, author of countless New Age books, and frequent target of scathing criticism on this very show for the stringing together of scientific-sounding jargon, often involving the word quantum, and incoherent mysticism that he masquerades as some kind of deep pseudo-philosophical insight into the nature of consciousness and reality. It should be obvious to the careful listener of his lectures and debates that Chopra is by no means a physicist, nor does he appear to have even the slightest bit of actual understanding of quantum mechanics, and when challenged about the lack of any true science in his scientific-sounding claims, rather than address the criticism itself, Chopra will often feign offense and brush it off by appealing to authority and citing his credentials, which he believes makes him a credible source of information. While he does have an MD and taught at the medical schools of Tufts University, Boston University, and Harvard, his specialization is in endocrinology, and he stopped practicing medicine after meeting transcendental meditation guru Maharishi Mahesh Yogi in the 1980s. Thus began his spiraling into the realm of pseudo-profound bullshit. Consider, for example, his claim that nothing, including, for example, the Earth's moon, objectively exists outside of one's consciousness constructs, arguing you are the universe. What Chopra doesn't seem to understand, or rather what he conflates in order to rationalize his own bullshit, is that perceptions arise within consciousness, but there is no evidence to suggest consciousness in and of itself has any power to influence either the universe or our shared reality. The moon exists whether there is any conscious creature around to perceive it, as can be demonstrated by a non-conscious observer like a machine or other such inanimate recording device. But what bothers me most about Chopra isn't his use of nonsense and scientific-sounding mysticism to justify his claims, though that still bothers the ever-loving crap out of me. Rather, it's his use of nonsense and scientific-sounding mysticism to justify the millions of dollars he bilks out of his unsuspecting audience, like any other charlatan or perpetrator of alternative medicine. Chopra had no place speaking at an autism conference because he is absolutely not qualified to have been there. So, why do people still buy into his oft-debunked quackery, continue to propel him to fame, and inflate his disgusting $50 million net worth? Let's talk about that, shall we?
Well, specifically on that note that you're ending
with a question?
your intro with, no, but the materialism of it, I find it's like a super delicious irony that as he's spewing his deepities, he's looking at you through these spectacles that are encrusted with a ton of diamonds. You know?
Oh yeah.
Is diamond encrusted spectacles?
It's that obvious. It's
that
obvious.
Like
a dream symbol kind of thing.
Like it's almost Trumpist in its like brazenness.
Yeah.
You know that
Like that symbol alone is completely anathema to his entire message. It's like totally shallow and materialistic.
Good expression of being that guy.
Like, yeah, that's just off the bat. That's my
right.
my favorite part of this guy.
And
And he wears them all the time.
All the time.
He's only got...
It's his signature.
Yeah, it's his signature. Those
no matter
big,
where he goes or where he's lecturing, he'll always...
thick-brimmed glasses with like the
twin rows of diamonds across both sides.
Oh, it's not just 2 rows. It's like 4 rows.
Oh, is it 4?
It's
okay,
like he's got like the thick kind of... What do you call the arms of the glasses?
We'll call them arms.
We'll call them the arms of the glasses.
The arms of the glasses.
Let's just call them that. We invented that. We coined it.
He
Copyright.
specifically got a kind that have an extra thick arm so that you can fit like at least 4 rows of huge diamonds.
Eventually there'll be these giant goggles of diamonds that he's wearing.
Yeah.
An entire helmet.
A helmet of diamonds.
A helmet of diamonds. He's got to protect his brain, right?
Well,
Yeah.
because
No one else
consciousness.
can
Because
really
why?
because
Because
consciousness.
consciousness. Or quantum. Because quantum.
Well, you know, I think
Because quantum.
You ended it with a question. I can't remember what that question was. Something. How does he get away with something?
Why do people continue to buy into his quackery and propel him to fame and inflate his $50 million net worth?
So I'm going to say...
Can I just emphasize the $50 million thing? He's worth $50 million,
Well,
this guy.
he's a successful businessman in the capitalist world.
Well,
really,
that's
let's
pretty
put it
much.
that
So what were you going to say about that?
way. Well, I was going to say I've completely forgotten. Let me try and remember. Hold on. I'll
Did
try
your
and grab the train.
consciousness quantum part?
So the
or
question-
something?
So the question is, give me the question again.
Well, okay, why do people continue to buy into his quackery and continue to propel him to fame and inflate his $50 million?
The same as with anyone. I mean, people are searching for something to clutch onto because they feel afraid, sort of things. So he's basically giving them something, just a little bit of something that may be true, that people can buy and
hold
chirp
on a
into.
second.
I mean, and I'm suggesting that everyone is, in a sense, privy to possibly some sort of packets of truth. Everyone's doing it, right? Everyone's doing it. He's just doing it to an extreme.
The thing I take issue with is may be true, right? In order to say something may be true, you have to be able to demonstrate that, which, every word that comes out of his mouth demonstrates that he doesn't know what he's talking about when it comes to like quantum physics and shit. Because he jumbles together a bunch of scientific sounding terms with Eastern mysticism and tries to sell that idea as some like I said in the intro, deep philosophical insight into the nature of reality and consciousness. But it's just so, like, if you ask any physicist, they'll tell you that what he's talking about doesn't make any goddamn sense. Like, quantum healing, you could, like, there are some ideas that he holds that are just completely vacuous.
Well, I have no problem with something not making sense still being true. I mean, that is
but like, how
possible.
How did you determine that what he's saying is either possible or
You're
maybe
a
plausible?
seeker of extreme proofs in truth.
I care about what's true.
Yes,
right?
I understand.
And before you can say that something is possible, you need to be able to demonstrate that possibility within reality to be able to say that it's possible.
To tell you the truth, Mark, I'm skeptical of all truths. Like, even I think that even if a truth is there and present, and I'm not negating that truth is a thing, but the communication of it, I am very skeptical of. I don't think that it can't really be captured in words. It's the sublime in a sense.
We're limited by language, right? And just
what I'm saying is I'm skeptical of your search for these extreme provable truths of truthness. Like I think that
okay, I want to clarify.
It can exist, it's not to say that we can. You're shushing me now.
No, I'm not shushing. I'm saying sure.
You shush me.
Sure.
Oh, okay, sure.
Sure.
That's not shushing.
Sure. That's so much better. Sure. Sure.
Yeah, whatever.
Sure. What you're saying.
But no, I want to specify that I'm not looking for certainty, because I don't really think we can be absolutely certain about anything. But what I care about is whether something can be independently verified and objectively verified as being true.
You want to build a science model.
Well,
No, but he just cares about credibility, I think, or
sure,
yes,
you can
okay,
say that,
right?
yeah.
Sure.
Yes. Shut up, John.
Shut up. Sure. No, but no, you're right. Like, in order to say that whether or not
do we not care about integrity or credibility? Do those terms mean anything to you, Luke?
Do they mean anything to me?
Mr. There is no truth.
Mr.
I'm not negating a truth. I'm
Right.
negating
The claims to truth.
yeah.
Right.
I think. You guys tell me. I don't know what I think.
No, and I'm sympathetic to that, and I think you are too, Mark.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So we're looking for some sort of credibility, for which we see none for the.
So there's like a spectrum, right?
Okay. So hold on. You guys are
There's
you're
pulling
criticizing-
shit out of your ass and saying it with confidence,
Right.
and there's saying things or trying to learn and trying to synthesize what you learn with some fidelity to what.
Yeah,
To the truth,
To
right?
give an example of pulling something out of your ass, this is a direct quote from Chopra. So according to him, I'm going to start the quote here, quote, "Contrary to our traditional notions of aging, we can learn to direct the way our bodies metabolize time," end quote. That's fucking bullshit. Like, how can you... How do you do that? Right? If you can't just...
So has Deepak just chosen to get more and more wrinkly and gray?
Well, yeah. Like,
Hold on. Here.
Has he chosen not to proof to
Right,
his,
but why are you not choosing to slow your own aging there, buddy?
Now let's say, for example,
Right.
that for example this is true, but it is not just something you can do, but that you can learn to do. And he's claiming it as a truth.
Yeah.
Before it's possible.
That's my problem. He's
Right.
claiming it as
That's
a
a
truth
problem, right?
without demonstrating that it's even possible.
Yes, I see.
You know?
But he's not claiming that it's being done and can be done now. I suppose he is just saying...
Well, he wrote... This is...
So you're saying he's selling something?
He's selling... This is in his book. Like, this is a part of the shit that he sells to people. Like, he makes all these...
Has he manufactured anything because of this belief?
Yeah, like he sells oils and...
for money.
He sells oils and spices and all these weird things that are associated to
that idea.
He follows like a weird mix of Ayurvedic metaphysics and physiology mixed with a bunch of quantum-sounding jargon that doesn't have any applicability to the stuff he's talking about.
It sounds like what you guys are saying is that he's taking something that he might think is true. He starts with that, but then he takes it too far to sell something, like to make money, to be successful, and to get more diamonds on his glasses, kind of thing. And that's what you don't like. You don't like this lack of integrity and the fact that you feel like he's pushing something forward that he doesn't even believe in it at this point. Like, do you think he believes all the shit he's saying?
Michael Shermer was asked that question because he and Shermer appear, when Chopra and Shermer appear in a lot of discussions and debates together. Like they've gone head to head on a couple of different occasions, and Shermer says that Chopra absolutely believes the stuff that he's talking about. Shermer's convinced that
and why wouldn't he? He's become rich and famous and successful based on regurgitating those exact
so in that sense
kind of ideas.
Is he lacking this integrity that you were talking about before because he believes it himself?
I would venture to say yes. Well, then again, I don't know. Like, what do you mean by integrity?
Well, I don't know, Gilles. What do you mean by integrity? You were the one that brought up that idea.
Yeah. What I mean by integrity is at least having the humility to subject what you're saying to sort of real objective testing. You know, like he's first of all he's misrepresenting misrepresenting the quality or the I guess the integrity of the ideas that he's putting out there.
So now you are less confident in using this idea. Like you're diffusing integrity there a little bit.
What do you mean? Why?
Well, you said it there in a way. Rewind.
No, I'm saying he's because I'm not sure that was the most appropriate word for the idea that I was trying to get across about him. What I was trying to say was that he's misrepresenting right off the bat. He's misrepresenting the integrity of these ideas because he's appealing to his credentials as an MD, like what Mark alluded to in his intro. He's appealing to his credentials as an MD to say things and convey ideas about theoretical physics that have nothing to do with that whole other area of expertise that he may very well have.
Yeah, for example, his idea.
So that there's a dishonesty there. Yeah. So that right there, that's a lack of integrity.
To give you a concrete example, like he identified one of his definitions of consciousness, because there have been many definitions of consciousness that he's given, is that consciousness is a field of quantum non-locality, and it's like an amalgam, like all these. It's the epitome of just possibility or whatever. Okay. Mm-hmm. He doesn't understand what quantum non-locality means. It has nothing to do with consciousness.
Consciousness is a superposition of non-local possibilities in the quantum realm, and it is the universe thinking itself.
That's exactly what he kind of fucking says.
So
good accent.
But
I want to preface this by saying I am not a physicist, so I'm just going according to my rudimentary understanding of quantum mechanics, which is, I think, still better than his. But what quantum non-locality refers specifically to subatomic particles being entangled and exchanging information with one another about their state almost immediately. And this can happen across vast distances, they think.
Sure, yeah.
So it's...
But the field of theoretical physics, like anybody within the field, is is never making the claim in any of the actual published literature that this concept applies to the macro level,
Right, so he's-
like the moon, for
Yeah,
instance.
because quantum physics is not applicable to the macro universe. Once you get above the size of one single atom, and humans are bigger than one
What
single
do you
atom.
mean what was the word there? Equitable? Equivalent? What was that word?
Equivalent?
Equivalent?
Yeah.
What?
So how is it that the small isn't the same as the large?
We don't know yet. That's what the
Oh yeah, no, yeah. So the principles that apply to large bodies like astronomical physics, there's just a different set of rules that govern the very, very tiny quirks and
and
Well,
quirks.
is there a different set of rules, or is there just an appearance of a different set of rules?
we don't know.
We
That's
don't
the
quite
problem.
know,
They've
but-
been trying to fix the problem of why quantum physics operates the way it does in this strange way, and then connect that to relativity somehow, because the laws of relativity don't apply on the quantum scale.
Right.
It's super fucking weird, and that's what people like Chopra do, is they take advantage of this fucking weirdness when it comes to quantum physics
So-
and try to apply it to the rest of the macro universe. But it doesn't work like that, as far as we understand it. Like the entangled particles, we're talking about the subatomic here. You're not going to get an atom as soon as you talk about something the size of one atom or more, you can forget about quantum physics because it just doesn't apply anymore.
So the thing that really bugs me about Chopra too isn't that he's just getting quantum physics wrong, but it's that he's not actually trying to teach anybody anything about quantum physics. What he's trying to do is use it as use that language metaphorically to tell you things that are supposedly going to help you psychologically
Is he even
or
being metaphorical?
spiritually.
Like, is he actually using it as a metaphor? Because he seems pretty literal in his description.
Sure, but what I'm saying is that he's using it in the context of like a whole self-help project.
Okay.
Like he's sort of proffering it as an alternative to traditional religion.
Right.
He's basically trying to get people to come to some kind of spiritual understanding through his use of quantum.
Right, he's trying to
physics
use, to me, he's
concepts.
trying to use science to create a model for the antithesis of science, like religious insight or whatever you want to call that.
But he's not even using
Revelation?
He's not even
Revelation,
using
yeah.
science properly. He's just using the terms
Sure.
that sort of
It
sound like
sounds
they might.
It sounds
work
like what
with
we're
this.
saying is that he's a very poor scientist, and that really he just got inspired by this Maharishi guy. Had this big experience, and that toppled his science mind, and blew it out of the sky, and then he just went on and got some really fancy glasses.
Well,
people about it.
Richard Feynman, the other famous physicist, he talked about cargo cult science.
Right.
So we've talked about cargo cults before on the podcast.
It's a cargo. We've talked about that before.
We have
Yeah.
talked about that on the podcast before. So in like New Guinea, I think not Papua.
Is there an old Guinea?
You know what? That's a
Just-
very good question.
That's
It's
just
new.
Guinea.
It's
What
one of
about
those
just
places
Guinea?
that's
Just
just
Guinea.
always new. It's new. It's still new.
No, there's Guinea, and then there's I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So I think in New Guinea, there's these cults that emerged after World War II, where in World War II they had set up these bases of operation and stuff like that, like in the middle of the South Pacific.
And landing fields for planes.
And so they set up landing fields for planes, and there was like cargo that was going through there, and so these tribes that had no modern technology or exposure to the rest of the world suddenly they're in contact with this high tech Western world that's just coming through there, and they're waging the war and stuff.
Right.
But these people, they're exposed to that, and they're getting cargo, and they're benefiting from these guys coming through there, right? They're getting supplies and stuff like that. And what has happened since World War II, like those runways and stuff were abandoned, and those bases were abandoned, and so what's happened is these cultures have tried to recreate that to try and get more cargo. So what they've done is they've imitated almost perfectly, like they've set up these runways.
They built towers
with like 2-story towers, and then they set up 2 people in there. They put on
coconut earphones,
like coconut headphones and stuff. So they're like going through all of the motions exactly like what they observed in the past that brought cargo to them.
Huh.
They're appealing to this imaginary higher power. There's like these rituals that they set up.
Because they see it in like a
in a sense, I guess that's what we're doing, right? We're trying to our inclination is to try and grab someone else's model of things and worship it, like just like we're trying to do that right now with science, sort of thing. You know, we want to grab with that model.
No, I hate this.
No, you're right. That was stupid. That was totally stupid.
Luke, stop
I'm not gonna say science, but what people think science is then.
Sure.
Because people don't have a true understanding, and we are just we are borrowing.
Yeah.
Like we need other people, right?
But like you've heard the religious apologists before using the argument that well secularism is just the other side of the coin, and you're just religiously an atheist, just as I am religiously religious.
Yeah, you
know?
science is your religion.
Yes, yeah,
science is your religion.
And that is the case.
But that's a false equivalency.
It's
The whole point of science is to come up with an impartial, objective method that everyone, no matter what their personal biases are, they can appeal to the method to
I like to call
to
it
access knowledge that can be perceived by everyone, no matter what their biases are.
Yeah,
so it's
there's
the
no
agreement.
There's no tenet of science. There's no there's no holy science book.
But
that
it's
people
not
appeal
but
to.
it's not an arbitrary agreement like a contract. It's a method that is proved by repetition and by demonstrability to be able to circumvent the pitfalls of bias.
Yeah, the scientific method is the single most reliable method that we have to describe why a certain observable fact happens. Right? You can apply this method whole cloth across the board to any observable fact, and you get the results. The results are always repeatable because you're following the steps.
So to me, I would think of it as like the repeated self, because I don't coming from like the Buddhist idea of no self sort of thing. That what we're describing is what I would call the self, coming from that perspective. Like from my Taoist self would call that the verifiable self, and that's that in a sense is what we're discovering, and that in a sense is what we're seeking to describe, and not explain but describe.
What do you mean by self?
Well, what we were just talking about, this model, the model that we're building, the verifiable model. I'm talking as a whole. Mm-hmm. I'm talking grand narrative, which I shouldn't be doing, but you know.
Why is it directed like inwardly toward the self?
It's not inward because it is collective. I'm calling that the self.
Because it's just about being able to represent the universe that we all share faithfully, right?
Right. The self. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm calling.
Oh, okay.
I'm declaring that tonight.
So you're using the
tonight,
self
everyone.
to
You're listening to this at
the
night
universe
in your bathtub. What's that?
You're using the self to describe the universe, to describe all.
Well, yes,
reality.
that's all we can do, right? Everyone's using the self to measure. It's a tool. The self is a tool measuring itself.
Well, we all see through our own subjective lens. Like nobody can escape their subjective.
Right. So the agreement
point of view.
This thing that's not an agreement, but it is still an agreement. Like the model. That
it's a procedure. It's a procedure that helps to mitigate that entrapment in our subjective perspective.
Yeah,
right.
There are safeguards. There are
That's
safeguards built into the scientific.
Self.
There are safeguards built into the scientific method that make you bypass personal bias and all these confirmation biases and things, so you don't interpret the results in such a way that conforms to your already pre-existing notions about the universe, right? So people like Chopra just eschew the entire thing.
What would a person seem like if they just believed in what was claimed certain? You know,
you get the religious. You get people who believe Christianity is 100% true because it says so in the book, right?
Oh no, I mean the opposite, like a person that only believes, just science, isn't drifting off, but only thinking concrete things in terms of
certain premises of scientific knowledge are absolute or something, and they end up building a worldview around the certainty that is that this one concept that they've learned from science is absolutely true.
I suppose you could look at it as not absolute, but absolute in the moment that you're looking at it. Like in the sense that you can't think beyond it. You can only think in terms of it. Does that make sense?
Maybe I would need more explanation. What?
Yeah, do you want to pull
I
that
don't even
apart?
remember what I said.
That was a good toast.
Well, we could rewind. Man, I wish we could do that. We should be
could
also
rewind.
recording this and rewinded it. You said this.
What did I say?
I don't know what I said.
Yeah, if we could appeal to a stenographer like we're in court.
yeah, we need a stenographer.
Read back the record.
Please read back the record.
Okay, so this is his quote about non-local shit. So we are each a localized field of energy and information with cybernetic feedback loops interacting within a
Cybernetics.
non-local field of
I
energy
hear
and information.
lasers when he's talking.
What does that even mean? What the fuck are you talking
See,
about?
already he's confusing different. He's
Cybernetic.
Yeah, he's so cybernetic is explicitly about the whole electronic computer world.
I have something to say.
Okay, do it. Thank you for raising your hand, Luke.
Yeah. So, I don't really know this Chopak guy or whatever his name
Chopak.
is. Just Chopak. Okay, so whatever. You guys mention shit and I just go
Deep
along
choke.
with it.
Deep
Like I've seen him, but I haven't really paid attention. Is what I'm saying. And
Okay.
I didn't go and read up on him and stuff. I figured you guys would just tell me, but I'd be like,
He's
okay,
famous
that's what I
because
know
of
about him.
Oprah.
Yeah.
Ultimately, by the
Oh,
way.
thanks, Oprah. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, it's because of Oprah that we have Deepak, that we have Dr. Oz,
Right.
that we have The Secret.
What?
That's all Oprah's fault.
So yes,
okay, just to
extreme
touch on that for a
salesman
second. How come,
of things.
Why does the quackery come out
Ideas.
of Oprah's show so frequently? Like, what is it about that? Is she producing these people? Like, how do we get so many quacks off of her show?
Yeah, I wonder. We must have gotten non-quacks as well. I'm sure.
Right, but
Tom Cruise. Okay, so I didn't know anything about what we were going to talk about, but
Yeah, let's
I
forget
knew
about
for
my
some
question.
reason that I wanted to tell a particular story.
Okay.
And I don't know why, but I'll just tell it anyways.
Let's hear
So the story is that I...
Tell us more,
I'm
Grandpa.
about to cross the street. I'm standing there with Valerie. And
Hi, Valerie.
we're on, what is it? It's by my place, so it's going up Bay.
Don't tell
There's-
people where you live.
There's my address is such and such, and my phone number is 555. So we're at a stop. We're waiting to cross in front of JJ Market, great salads, and we're
Not a sponsor.
we're about to cross, and a bike guy stops in front of us.
Like a bicycle guy?
A bicycle guy.
Okay.
Okay, not a motorcycle guy.
And he starts yelling,
What?
"Move your car! You are not allowed to stop here! It is a no stopping zone! Move your car!" And he's standing right there in front of me. And then I look over, and it's a guy. Well, actually, what am I saying? I didn't even see the driver. I don't know
Okay.
why I was assuming it was a guy. It may have been a woman.
Right.
But my story in my mind is that it's a guy picking up his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And she is looking over, completely disturbed, going, "He's picking me up." And then, she gets in the car and they rush off, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I guess talking about it now, I'm realizing that being right can be uglier than being wrong.
Yeah, people don't.
And vice versa.
People have a particular aversion to admitting when they're wrong about something, right? And I think it has a lot to do with that, and we've talked about this before. But how?
But he's saying that, let's say that was a no stopping zone.
Right.
And it was. He shouldn't
This
be stopped
guy,
there. And
this
I
guy
myself
was,
get annoyed
this
when
guy
people
was
stop there on
right
the
about
bike path.
that, but he was still wrong in in
his
completely unreasonable assertion of that.
The self-righteousness.
Yeah.
He was self-righteous.
He was self-righteous.
And it's ugly.
Yeah.
It's very, very ugly.
So just that kind of like deep-seated pride about having to be right about that one thing. Like, I'm right that this is a how dare
So
having to
you're
be
saying
right
that
and
we
not
have to
allowing
suffer
someone
people
else's
like
rights.
Deepak Chopra because
No.
if we
I think
dare
I want to bring up another
contradict them?
point in that I also
We're that
feel
guy?
that the opposite is. Oh, you guys might be. Yeah, if you went too hard on Chopra, what's his name?
Chopra.
Chopra, he like I'd be like, come on, and I'd be like, I'd stand in the way. Like I would not, if you guys started, let's say we met him,
Yeah.
we're walking, we're on the market in Ottawa,
then
and
we
you see
went,
him, and
That is not what quantum physics is saying!
yeah, and so let's
You
say,
are not a physicist!
so let's say Mark jumps him, right? And he's like, he gets violent. I'm gonna step in and I'm gonna be like, Mark, come on. And
Why would I do that?
Well, I'm just saying, some people are pushed to that limit, and it really is nothing more than that when people get violent. It's because their world isn't working out with other people's worlds, and it's like, "Rah!"
Yeah.
So we all need to line up our motherfucking world packets together so that they work.
Well, I don't hate the guy.
Otherwise-
I just think he's fundamentally wrong. Like, he's just wrong. He's wrong.
Well, he may not be. Okay, I'm not saying that, because there you're saying fundamentally. wrong.
Yeah, at the fundamentals of his claims are wrong.
Everyone's packet of truths may align in some way with truth.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, though, like, for it to line up with truth.
I'm quoting, what is that, Cloud Atlas, I think they said. No,
Oh.
it's Morty and
Rick
whatever,
and
Rick
Morty?
and Morty making fun of that
Of
movie.
Cloud Atlas?
Yeah, and they say
true.
the true, yeah.
But in order for someone's truth to line up to the true, like it has to be objectively and independently verifiable, right?
Yes, the self.
I don't like calling it at the self because that
It's
has
too-
its own.
it's too-
baggage.
That's like calling
That's
the
lame.
universe God.
Yeah, like
Well, no.
Or calling-
I'm calling it self.
or calling God
Why
the
can't I
self.
give it a different name?
because we already have a name for the universe. It's the universe, or
Okay, sure. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I guess I'm trying to make an association there.
but why? But what-
Well, because it is.
Yeah, but you're trying to make a metaphorical association.
Well, yeah, I was trying to.
you know who else does
I was
that?
trying
you
to.
know who else does
Yes,
that? Jordan
exactly.
Peterson. Jordan Peterson does that.
Oh, that guy. It's like I'm all like defending. What's this guy?
Jordan Peterson.
Jordanson.
But right away, I'm not prepared to
Edon?
defend Jordan Peterson. Like you guys are the ones that are stopping me from jumping on that guy. Why you? I'd at least pretend it was for his boots or something. I bet he has nice boots. Jordan Peterson.
Peterson?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never seen his boots. He could though. Like,
I
he's
bet
got
he
nice
would.
suits.
Yeah.
Guy dresses well.
Does he? Haven't
so.
noticed.
Eh,
I ain't looking.
But anyway, yeah, like in order for someone's truth to line up to objective truth, it has to be independently verifiable, right? So like people have to agree on a certain set of facts in order for them to be considered true, right?
I love how we say have to agree, but it's in a sense not an agreement
Well, no, like
because it is.
it is an agreement. Like if you want to say that it's true that there's a tree in my backyard, Gilles, hey look, do you see a tree in the backyard?
I see a tree in your backyard.
Luke, do you see a tree?
I see a tree in your backyard. We all agree.
There's a tree in the backyard. That is true.
It is true.
Now
It
a
is
true
determined
fact.
true.
Right.
Right,
It is.
right.
We agreed, and we can point to the tree. We can take a sample of the tree. And
We can even close our eyes
Well, there it's
and
almost
no
like-
longer see the tree there, but we can walk in that direction and encounter the tree.
It's more like we've
with
agreed
some
to
painful
agree that
results,
it's true.
possibly. But
Yeah, because like in order for us to have any kind of pragmatic approach to the universe or reality, there are certain underlying truths that are presupposed to be agreed upon.
Right. So what about the ones? And I don't want to be fascist about anything or anything like that. But the unverifiable ones, like the sublime or whatever,
What do
the
you-
things that are unverifiable, that are still true.
Like what?
Well,
Just
Example.
I can't really talk about it.
Well, no. In order to talk about
I'm not
it,
allowed.
well, if
Because
you
I'll
don't
sound
know,
like an
then
idiot.
I'm certainly not going to tell you.
No, but in
Don't
a
you
sense,
love that one?
in a sense,
I
though.
If you don't know, then I'm not going to tell you.
It should be.
I love
obvious.
that one.
It should be. Obvious.
Well, what about some of the stuff that this Chopra guy
Here's another.
steps on?
Here's another quote of his.
There are traditions that say the in-body experience is a socially induced
Don't do that,
collective
don't.
hallucination. We do not exist in the body exists in us. We do not exist in the world exists in us.
That's
Right.
such a fucking deepity. Like it doesn't.
That's the definition of a deepity.
Well,
yeah.
Like it sounds profound and deep and shit, but when you pull it apart, it doesn't mean anything. Right?
It's
And
just
to-
poetically like reversing.
Yeah, and to the
common...
extent that it might mean something, you find out it's not actually true. That's
Well,
a deepity.
it's panpsychism, is it not? Like that idea. Like for example, that article that I sent you guys.
Yeah,
about
you shared a good quote actually by an actual
real
by
scientist.
a real
talking about,
scientist.
There you go. So I gave
So
you guys some real
here's-
science talking about that same shit.
Real
Here's the quote you shared with us, which is interesting. The only principle that does not hinder progress is anything goes. Without chaos, no knowledge. Without a frequent dismissal of reason, no progress. For what appears as sloppiness, chaos, or opportunism has a more important function in the development of those very theories which we today regard as essential parts of our knowledge. These deviations, these errors, are preconditions of progress. Paul Feyerabend.
Yeah, I have a problem with the dismissal of reason.
Yeah, without a frequent dismissal of reason, no progress.
A
Yeah,
frequent.
I disagree with that because
For what appears as sloppiness, chaos, or opportunism has a more important function in the development of those very theories, which we today regard as essential parts of our knowledge.
like that's the entire. If you put everything into context, well, I'm sorry,
It's a troubling quote.
Yeah, it is a troubling quote. Like in and of itself, that is self-defeating because if you frequently dismiss reason, what are you left with in order to determine truth from something that isn't true within you?
Like, I wonder if this quote is just, I don't know, do you know where he said this? Was this in a book of his? Or
I'm
was
pretty
it
sure
in
it was the chapters.
speaking? like, where did you find...
No, I don't know. I just found a quote. What can I say?
Oh, okay. So we don't know if he said it in...
No, I don't know much about
in
him.
casual conversation, or if he wrote that down, or... Okay.
Yeah. It was. I'm pretty sure it was on Oprah.
It kind of reminds me of what you were of the quote from Bukowski that you mentioned earlier about like
But first of all, I'm going to say never quote me on a quote, like really, because
Okay.
I don't really know what I'm talking about or anything like that.
oh, okay then
I just mean I have a hard time remembering things specifically.
Yeah.
And they're often.
but
out of
you were
context.
saying that maybe Bukowski had said something about how like when you overthink something, that's when
Right,
you're less likely to arrive at the solution. You're more
less likely. It's immediately ruined.
Right. So it's when you stop thinking that you realize the solution.
William
or
S.
something like
Burroughs,
that.
destroy all rational thought. Like I think that
That
is a
kind of
part.
stuff.
That is a part of
Yeah.
it, and that is an experience to have for people. And I think that people.
Do or do not. There is no try. No, that's not.
That's Yoda or something.
That's Yoda. Yeah.
But I think that just as important as rational,
when you stop
as
trying,
rational thought is the destruction of
often-
rational thought. Does that make sense?
What's that? Sorry, repeat that.
I feel that just as important as rational thought is not irrational thought, but not rational thought.
Right. A surrender to our non-rational.
I just mean
not the
that
non-rational functions of our
just as
minds.
important as
Our
rational
brains.
thought is the destruction of irrational
So
thought.
are you talking about like ego dissolution kind of ideas?
I don't know, because it's not thought.
Like meditation, I guess, is sort of like
Yeah.
an erasing of your ego and your sort of deliberate rationality, right? Like
Yeah,
it's about sort of surrendering your tryingness.
Yeah, to get to that transcendent kind of identity, like universal identity kind of thing. Like there are practices that lead to that. Like you can temporarily, at least, either through meditation or through the consumption of certain substances, which we may or may not talk about, just destroy the ego and feel like an outside observer to the rest of reality. Like that's a documented thing that can happen. But to stretch that to the other side of the equation, like Chopra and people like him do, and say that therefore the universe is a conscious entity unto itself, there's a step missing between the actual practice of ego dissolution and the association of universal consciousness. How do you get from one to the other? Like there's a logical step that is just not present in that type of argumentation.
Yeah, it's not present in Deepak Chopra. Is that his name? Deepak
Yes.
Chopra?
Yeah, you got it right.
Yeah, that step is not present in the stuff that he talks about. He just asserts something and tries to solve a mystery of
Sure.
He tries to solve the
basically
mystery of
saying
consciousness.
he's not a very good scientist.
He's not a scientist, period.
But he is still, in a sense.
I just want to finish my thought though. First.
Sorry, I'm very sorry.
Sure. Thanks, Luke. Sure. But he tries to solve a mystery, the mystery of consciousness. Like he says that because we do not understand consciousness, he appeals to the mystery. He tries to solve that mystery by appealing to a greater mystery. Like, well, we can't explain it. It's kind of like an argument from ignorance fallacy that he invokes here, right? Because we don't understand. Well, how else? What else could it be? It has to be universal consciousness. If we can't account for the origins of consciousness, there has to be something outside of space-time to generate it. That's like I've seen this line of thought.
Outside of space-time.
That's the problem I have with this because that's the line of reasoning that I've seen him follow on many occasions.
He's stated that it's outside of
Yes,
space-time?
there has to be something outside of space-time to account for consciousness. Because according to Chopra, everything that arises within consciousness is just a human conception or concept or like an aspect of human understanding. And then he goes a step further and says, therefore, it has to come from somewhere else than just the brain.
I feel like he just ignores the concept of emergent phenomena.
Yeah. Along these same lines here, he put out recently, I don't know how recent it was, but like he put out his own version of the JREF's $1 million challenge.
Oh yeah.
Have you heard about this?
Yeah. What's his name? The great James Randi's.
Yeah. If anyone can prove the supernatural within controlled laboratory settings, I will give you $1 million. This has been out there for like 20 odd years, maybe more.
Did I hear that he's no longer?
Yeah, I think I stated in a previous episode that he's no longer offering it. But what actually is happening is that the JREF Foundation itself, I don't think is like they're doing something different with the challenge. I can't remember what exactly. Okay. But anyway, Chopra came out with his own version of that, and he said if anyone can account for the physical emergence of consciousness, I will give you $1 million. Within a week, I shit you not. I don't know if this is related to his challenge or if the researchers came up with this on their own and it happened to coincide with it. But within a week, there was a paper that was published that stated that they were able to manipulate somebody's consciousness by sending electrical volts into the colostrum of her brain.
Oh, while she was like still a God helmet kind of deal?
No, it's kind of similar to that, but she was fully awake,
I want one.
And they zapped her colostrum and turned her consciousness off.
Whoa.
Oh,
yeah, and then they zapped it again, turned it back on.
I bet that
and
was...
there she was.
How did she like the experience?
I think she was epileptic or something. It came out in the Journal of Epilepsy or like something along those lines. So it was a legit experiment that accounted for consciousness within the colostrum of the brain.
Jeez, I would be curious to know how it felt. You know, what that particular experience was to that person.
Subjectively, I would really be interested in seeing how...
Let's get her on the show, man.
That'd be cool.
So was this turning off of the consciousness something different from unconsciousness?
It was unconsciousness, but like she was fully awake when it happened. So like she was awake, they zapped her colostrum, and then consciousness stopped.
So like, you could put somebody to sleep without needing the drugs?
I don't think it's a sleep state. It's just a consciousness thing.
So
I don't know.
How is consciousness being detected here?
The specifics of the difference.
How is consciousness being detected? Like, what is determined as consciousness visually?
Well, she's no longer receiving information from the world and being able to talk about what she's receiving. So you're no longer conscious. Like when you're conscious, you can interact with other people who are conscious. And
so, like my question to Chopra,
that's just proof of conscious.
Right.
That's not necessarily the disappearance of it. That's why I was curious to know what they were actually looking at to determine that consciousness was happening and then not happening.
I didn't like the full paper is behind a paywall, so I couldn't read the whole thing.
Because to me, it could be someone making claims about science, this thing that happened, and making claims that may not be true. For example, it could be just that there's no signs of the blocking or the disappearance of consciousness and then consciousness.
What else is there?
Well, no, I'm talking about what they're looking at as the model of it, and using that. Like what I'm saying is, what's the brain scan? What are they looking at that shows consciousness?
There's probably an fMRI or something.
And then the disappearance of consciousness, because then that becomes the thing that's representing consciousness.
I think. Don't quote me on this, and I could be completely wrong because the abstract is the only thing available from this paper. Yeah. But I think they
translation, not much information.
Yeah, no, I don't have much information to go on. But like, She must have been hooked up to an fMRI or some other way to measure brain activity.
We're
or
assuming
something.
here, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
I am
we're trusting this person's scientific abilities.
Yeah, but he's a scientist, so
Yeah. We assume they're doing good science. But often when I hear scientists talk about science, they're speaking from very certain parameters, and I find the use of the language is very
it's
poor.
the complete
usually
opposite
in
of that. Like
documentaries. I suppose that could just be
scientists are
soundbites.
always hedging their bets.
Yeah, their
They're
language
always
is always
hedging their language.
circumspect.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
I'm sure there's someone else who knows more about this than me, but according
Right.
to the results that we found in the study,
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never read a science paper or anything like that. I'm just talking about when I'm watching documentaries.
Ironically, that's what
There's-
allows a lot of lay people to dismiss science is all of this qualification type of language and hedging kind of language.
Right.
That makes it look not credible in layman's terms.
Yeah.
The language that's being used to get it to the
when you're
layman's
using
people
hedging
is not
language,
well
it's because
worded.
you don't know what you're talking about. It's because you're just spewing bullshit because you're not willing to tell me
right.
what's what.
Right.
so
Right.
like within their area of expertise, they can speak with a certain degree of certainty, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they are experts in that field.
Yeah.
So the language that comes out of these papers might sound authoritative or they're 100% certain about it, but there is always room within it for further research because that's part of the scientific method, right?
Are you not curious though? What are they determining as being consciousness? Here? What are they looking at?
Curious. I'd like to
what
see
the hell?
the
What the hell are they
methodology
looking
of
at?
the
This
paper and
consciousness?
everything.
No, I would love to see the full paper,
But without seeing the full paper, it says something that you can do something with that immediate effect.
and you can repeat that.
Right.
Well, the information that's conveyed, at least in the abstract, is compelling nonetheless.
Yeah. We flipped her consciousness off by zapping a part of her brain and then turn it back on again. So,
it's nice that they found it.
Yeah. Well,
It's right there beside facial recognition.
This follows on the heels of previous research done into the colostrum in that particular area of the brain in neuroscience and stuff. They just happened to build upon it by doing this experiment with this one woman. So my question to Chopra would be: did the doctors who performed this experiment on her cease to exist when her consciousness stopped? Because according to him, everything emerges from consciousness. No, they're still objectively there doing the experiment while she was unconscious.
Oh.
They didn't stop existing. They didn't go anywhere.
Right, you're talking about the tree falling in the forest thing there.
Yeah.
But there's other trees. That's what
Right.
I'm getting at.
And I guess Michael Shermer actually had that same discussion with Chopra.
The trees are the observers.
The trees.
Well, sure.
It has
So
to.
are the rocks.
Does it make a sound?
Yeah.
Well, you need to
Toaster.
define what you mean by sound.
Toaster,
Are you
the
talking?
burning toaster.
I am the toaster.
Is sound defined strictly as the vibrations in the air, or is it the interpretation of those vibrations?
Why can't it be all of them?
Well,
What if it were all of them?
maybe it is, maybe it isn't. How do you? What do you want? In order to have that conversation, you have to define your terms first. So, what do we mean by sound? And once we get beyond that, then you can answer the question one way or the other, right? But
Well, this is what I mean about the consciousness thing. What's this consciousness wave that they're measuring?
see,
What the fuck are they looking at?
We don't have a firm understanding of
Right.
of consciousness and what it entails, where it comes from, how it emerges from the brain, and so forth. But what we can say is that consciousness is a certain set or many sets of particular brain states that have a certain effect, right? And experience arises within those brain states.
Yeah.
But to then say because we don't understand where they come from, it has to come from somewhere else, is an argument from ignorance at its finest.
Yeah.
I imagine that I was talking earlier about having truth packets, and we're all walking around with truth packets kind of thing, and we got to make sure our truth packets go together, or else people are going to get mean with each other kind of thing. And what I imagine is those pod things, and everyone's got a bunch of them floating over their heads kind of thing. And some people have more than others, and some people have very few little truth packets kind of thing. But this Deepak Chopra guy,
Yeah.
he's eating them, of course.
I was hoping that would come in at some point. Yeah,
And he's telling us it fucking tastes great.
pretty much.
It tastes great, and all the kids are doing it now.
All the kids. are
And
doing
we're all very concerned. But I do think he's I don't know. I can't hate the guy. We can hate his science, but
Yeah, like I said, I don't hate the guy. I just
well, do you hate anyone? Have you ever hated before?
hate is a very strong. I hate Donald Trump. I just, as a person, I fucking hate the guy. He's just Yeah, I won't get into it. But yeah, I guess I hate Donald Trump, to answer your question. But I don't hate Chopra. I just think he's fundamentally wrong, like I said before. The fundamentals of his arguments are 100% inaccurate, and he's masquerading those truth packets, as you call them, as truth about the universe and reality, when in reality, he hasn't demonstrated that. Like, he just hasn't. Nothing he says has anything behind it. He's stringing together all these scientific-sounding words with Eastern mysticism, and he says that's what reality is.
Yeah. It sounds like he really was a scientist that had this experience.
He was a doctor.
What was he?
An MD. He was an MD.
If he's a doctor,
which is different from a scientist, and
Like a
it's
research
different
scientist.
from a theoretical physicist.
Okay.
Or a research scientist.
Yeah, that's it. An MD is not the same as a research scientist. Not to say that an MD is less than a research scientist, but I wouldn't expect a research scientist to be able to tell you how to cure certain diseases.
Yeah.
Right.
Or how to heal somebody. I wouldn't expect the theoretical physicist to have that specific other medical expertise.
Right.
Just because they happen to have some scientific degree. Right. And that's the problem with Deepak Chopra, is that he uses his credentials as an MD to pretend that he has the authority to speak about the other thing and to represent that to people and influence their understanding of that other stuff, right?
It's an appeal to authority. Again, another fallacy. He just cites his
Don't you
credentials.
see a problem with that? Don't you?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
I'm scowling at other thoughts in my mind. Don't worry.
I know you're a resident devil's advocate, and
Oh, sure. I'll stand up for
and
What's his name again?
everyone, not every thought, but everyone at least.
Right.
Sure. Yeah, he's wrong. He's just flat out.
Well, we
Not
can't say all of his truth packets are.
No, I can't.
No,
I
that's
can't
true.
say.
We can
all
say
of
that
it.
some are like big blobs of like they're just
Yeah.
Fat or juicy.
But a lot of the things-
more likely to burst.
Like within the context of his quantum physics claims and all this other quantum healing bullshit, he's wrong.
his thing on consciousness, isn't it already kind of pre-debunked with the example of what's that guy with the railroad tie that went through his head or
Oh, yeah,
something?
that guy.
Phineas Gage, I think his name was. Or
Phineas Gage, wow.
Phineas something.
What a great name,
I think
eh?
it's Phineas Gage.
What a great name to have
Yeah,
a
yeah.
bar go through your head.
I was thinking Phineas Fogg there, but I think it's
Yeah.
Phineas Gage.
Right. No, I
Phineas
think
Fogg is the guy that went around the world in
Yeah.
8 days.
Yeah.
Oh,
The-
that's a
the-
good name too.
The story, yeah, Phineas
Phineas Fogg. Man, are you kidding me?
Fogg. Yeah, you want to name your kid Phineas?
No, but look what he did with his name.
Yeah.
Phineas Fogg. And what did he do?
Phineas Gage. Phineas Fogg is a fictional character that went around the world in 80 days in a
It's
hot air
Jules
balloon.
Verne's or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Right. I knew something.
Anyway, Phineas Gage is some guy who was like working on a railroad or something, and there was a giant spike that blew up in front of him. Something blew up in front of him, and the spike went right
I
through
hate it
his
when
head.
the spikes blow up like that.
The spike went right through his head, and he survived. But he had this giant bar through his head for a while before they could. I don't know if they ever did remove.
Like, did he
it
go
or,
to like
you know.
opera engagements with the bar still?
I
I guess I can go, honey, but I feel a bit weird. Walking around with the bar through my head, people staring at me.
this little like
Wear the
wheelbarrow.
hat. Make sure you wear the hat.
Well, it doesn't really fit properly, honey. Look, his hat dangling off the bar at the opera. Everyone
guy.
complaining. God damn, it's just an inconvenience now to us with the hat, because now it's in our way, right? It's all high up, hanging on the
Well,
thing, so it's even higher. He's blocking more people's view.
Hey, down
Down
in
in
front.
front.
Down in front.
Lose the hat, idiot.
So anyway, this guy, his personality completely changed after the bar went through his head. But like he
must have had to go
he
through
was
some
still a
brain
conscious
elasticity workouts,
Right.
But that was like a clear indicator that the brain is where we get a lot of our, like, what is presented as our identity, right? Like our thoughts and our,
Well, yes, of
our
course.
emotions.
It's going through us.
And,
We're
and
the measuring
everything.
tool
That's
of
in the brain.
reality, sort of thing.
Yeah, there's another example that I can't remember who, but like something happened. Part of his brain was damaged, and he developed split personalities.
Oh, really?
Right, which throws into, this is a different topic, but it throws into question the idea of the soul. Right? Does he now have two souls because he's behaving in two different personalities? Like, it just.
Panpsychism, only one soul.
Panpsychism.
Isn't that what it's called? I don't even know. I just read it.
Panpsychism is just the idea that the whole universe is conscious, right?
Which Chopra would buy into or advocate, most likely.
But not only that, but one consciousness kind of thing or something like that?
How do you, I don't understand how you can come to that conclusion.
I don't either.
Okay.
Yeah. How does the universe's consciousness manifest? What?
I have no clue.
Does it interact with reality at all? Like,
what piece of information did anyone receive at some point that made them turn around and go, "Oh, that means the universe is conscious"? I don't understand.
Yeah.
For me, I think I can answer that question.
Okay.
What was it? You asked what?
Yeah. What piece of information did someone receive that
answer,
allowed them to interpret that to be able to make the proclamation?
But I'll answer
that, that means the universe is conscious.
I won't answer what, but I'll answer how.
Okay.
And it's with the destruction of rational thought, I think.
Okay.
Well,
is that the end?
that's it?
Yeah. When that happens, from that can be determined
This is your how?
something.
This is your how?
Yes. It's a great how. Try
that
it.
was
Go ahead,
just
try
another
it.
term. You just said another term. You didn't make an argument.
No, I'm not just saying
something.
another term.
It's just something.
No.
You said universal consciousness because
I'm answering the question.
Because destruction of rational
No,
thought.
I'm not answering the how in that way. I'm saying how it would lead someone to make such claims.
That's
what I'm saying.
So they didn't get a piece of information which told them.
What I'm suggesting
They
is
had an idea.
what they're perceiving as information is, in a sense, received.
They basically had a brain seizure out of nowhere that made them go, "Hey, maybe universe conscious."
They had an idea. They had a thought. But how does that prove that the universe itself is conscious? It doesn't. That's an assertion, and it's an assumption.
Let's say
it's a bald assertion.
Yeah.
Well, let's say you had the experience where your rational thought was destroyed, and then you came back to me.
Yeah.
And you guys are looking at me like I'm gonna say something. It's fucking hilarious. Okay. What was I even saying?
You were trying on the fly.
What was I even fucking saying? Because I had something there. But you guys were just looking at me too hard.
So you destroy rational thought, and we come to you.
Oh, yes. I realized where I was going, and I thought it was hilarious. I didn't know how to say it. In the sense, I was just going to say, what if you did manage to break down rational thought?
Yeah.
You would then possibly come back to me making such claims as to how. Because you're basically saying, how would one... blah 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 blah. Whatever we're talking about.
Well, I could.
How would one come to the conclusion that the universe?
Yeah, I guess the problem is that it's. How you're saying? How would one? Yeah, and so
it's an assumption, and it doesn't demonstrate the truth of that idea at all, right? You're just inserting.
It sounds more like an out of your butt statement until you can tell me what you saw, you experienced that. I guess that would lead you to the conclusion that the universe.
I guess
is
that
conscious.
is the thing.
You can't just say the universe is conscious without at least being able to appeal to some kind of.
You need to be able to demonstrate how you came to that conclusion.
But it is beyond the realm of proof.
Then why would you accept it? Right? Unless you can demonstrate something as being possible.
Yeah, you're only asking why because because in a sense it hasn't happened or something like that. Like you have not destroyed rational consciousness and then interpreted it that way.
Well, see, it's the interpretation that I would have an issue with. Unless you can back up that interpretation with verifiable facts and corroborating evidence.
Yes, but what you're asking is how does one do that?
Sure, but other people will come to different interpretations if they happen to have a similar experience to that, right? Let's say 5 different people can have an ego-destroying, rational thought eliminating experience, and they all come to different conclusions about what that entails. How do you determine which one of them is right, if any?
Yeah, no, I have no clue. I have no idea how one would perceive
and that's the problem.
Truth.
That is the problem, right? Unless the conclusion that someone is drawing can be independently and objectively validated through confirmation through different sources by corroborating that information with others.
Right.
You're just saying something. So you need to be able to demonstrate that what you're saying is applicable to reality.
So
or
I guess
least,
it is.
Or at least make an argument, or at least convey to the other person what you experienced. Like, even if you can't demonstrate what you experienced, if you can at least talk about what you experienced,
like
that would have led you to
the what. I'm not so
conclusion?
much concerned about the what. It's the conclusion that you draw from that what that would concern me more,
Okay.
right? Like that's what I'm talking about. If you reach a conclusion based on the experience that you had, and you proclaim it as truth about reality, you need to be able to demonstrate that. Chopra doesn't.
Why do you keep saying Chopra?
Is it not Chopra? Chopra?
It's
Chopra?
It's hard cha.
I've been saying
Hard
it
cha,
wrong.
man. Hard cha.
Chopra?
You've lost all credibility.
Yeah.
See, he jumped him.
Chopra is
Jumped him in
therefore
the market.
is therefore
Mark's
the conscious
jumping him in the
universe
market.
God.
Therefore, God.
Chopra, therefore God.
Well, I do think though that the how you come to that conclusion and how possibly some people have come to the conclusion, those that for example feel like they know it rather than just believe it, because you have people that that go through.
But knowledge is a subset of belief, though. Like knowledge is just a degree of certainty more than believing something.
Right.
Like, is there anything you know that you don't believe?
Is there anything I know that I don't?
I know
believe?
2 + 2 = 4, but I don't believe it. That doesn't make any sense to me.
In a sense, I would say yes, but I can't talk about it without sounding a fool.
Without sounding like a fool?
Yeah.
So-
Because I would just end up. No, I wouldn't.
When
say
have you been concerned about?
Well, no. I guess I'm going with the Wittgenstein
Since when is
thing
that
of
something you're worried
when it
about?
shouldn't. I mean, it's called critical junction, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm trying to think along the lines of only speaking in terms of the way that you guys are speaking, in a sense, you know. But if we're asking how, then I would say it's the destruction of rational thought that leads one to say such things with certainty that can't be verifiable. That's, I guess, what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Why does like just about that expression on a superficial note here? Why does it have to be such a violent and absolute kind of concept? The destruction of rational thought.
No,
Why
you're
can't it
right,
just
right.
be the suspension?
I
or
think
the,
yes.
momentary
what,
pause.
is there some meaningfulness to using
I
that terminology?
suppose the violence is in terms of the because it's not my quote. That's what's his face Burroughs, and I'm going to suggest there, just making it up on the spot, of course, as I always do, that it's just him being violent because of the critical nature that he feels that it's important to do.
Right.
So that's why it's expressed in a violent way.
It's very absolutist. You need to destroy rational thought.
Doesn't he want to
Well,
be able to come back
I
to
suppose
rational
there
thought at some
he
point?
didn't say you need to. That's us adding it on afterwards.
Okay.
He just said destroy rational thought. In fact, don't quote me on anything. I'm not sure. I remember that a little bit. Destroy rational thought.
Okay.
No need to. That
Yeah.
was me.
Gotcha.
Just now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sorry about that. Excuse me. That's my problem. Try like sounding certain when I'm not certain, kind of thing. I'm sure that's everyone's problem, especially that guy on the bike. More, car. And you know, you're feeling like when on the phone, when you're working on the phones, and someone's a jerk on the other end, and that
They've
rage
got
that
pictures of
rushes
that
through
guy.
you, kind of thing. Oh, Phineas Gage.
Yeah, there he is pictured with his spike in his hand there.
And then like him with a skeleton there on the side, like some sort
Oh
of skull.
no, because they just have a drawing.
Doing drawings.
Of
Hello, my name is Simon.
where the path
Oh,
the path
look
of the
at
spike
that.
through the skull.
Holy.
Yeah.
Is that an X-ray or something? Or?
No. It's just
just
it's
a-
an
oh,
engraving.
it's
I
pretty
could have
X-ray.
you.
Like through
Ooh,
that
man.
bone underneath the eye there, and the cheek,
Yeah,
and then at the top of his head.
Yeah.
I'm sure this is fascinating for people listening to audio only. Look at
Well.
this! Look!
Oh, but look,
You could
actually, I think they still have the guy's skull, and that's it right there.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have to
Yeah.
post these. Because, yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Phineas Gage.
Anyway, final thoughts on the issue of Deepak. I'm not going to say his last name because
He
I've
was
been
a
mispronouncing it.
handsome
Cho.
man. He kind
Who, Deepak?
of no,
Deepak.
Phineas Gage. He
Jealous of
square-jawed gentleman.
He's a fetching young man.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Final thoughts on Deepak.
Deepak's glasses. If you'd like to sponsor the show.
We're the makers of Deepak.
No, they're conscious.
Ah, okay.
Please call in and sponsor us.
For sure, we need them on the
That's my
on the
final
show.
thought.
That's a good one. Because they are conscious. They're part of the universe, right?
Yeah.
They arise. Okay, anyway.
No, I'm not going to have any final thoughts. I just sound fascist when I do, so no final thoughts from me once again.
That's fine. All right.
Well, what do you mean that's fine? Why is your more fine than mine's fine? You know.
No, I'm saying that's fine.
No,
okay.
Fine and
Sure.
like the most
Sure.
enthusiastic way.
Sure. No, guys. Sure.
I'm gonna regret that. Yeah, I don't really have much to close on either. Just, I think he's fundamentally wrong in his assertions when he interjects quantum physics into his mysticism. Or like masquerading mysticism as truth about reality is also fundamentally wrong. So don't do that.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, the problem, or I guess the message that I would have, because
For the world, for the children of the world in the future.
the real unfortunate thing is that people turn to Deepak Chopra for like self-help and for knowledge as some kind of secular guru kind of thing, right? And the only thing I would say is like, you don't turn to your plumber for electrical advice. You don't turn to your MD for physics advice. So, just keep that in mind, and maybe remember that expertise is a thing, and that not all expertise is created equal.
So what
Not
you're
all
saying
experts are created equal.
Boys and girls, you all need to figure out who you can trust and who you can't trust, and it's very difficult sometimes.
I guess
so be careful, boys and girls.
Speaking of boys and girls, I think my message to
and everyone else, of course, that aren't boys and girls, right? We go beyond that now.
That's right.
Like there is a list of 20, I don't know,
The gender
28 or something like that. The gender spectrum, the whole motherfucking rainbow right there.
But in terms of
There you
children, I guess my final message to the Children's Autism Service of Edmonton: why you got to go and hire Deepak, man? Why?
Oh no, did they?
Well, as I talked about that in the intro last year. Why was he their keynote speaker? That just no, man. Just no. Don't do that.
Well, hold on. I mean, the man needs... Oh, no, he doesn't need a job, I guess. But I was just going to say,
Actually,
even bad people can do great things.
Touching back briefly on the... Because you exclaimed, wow, when I mentioned the price of the tickets for his lecture at $217 a pop. That's pennies compared to what he usually charges for a full-blown lecture that goes in like the thousands of dollars per ticket. So,
Jesus.
fucking...
Like if he's Baskin Robbins, we're paying like $20 a cone kind of thing? Is that what you're saying?
More.
Oh, like 30, 40, 50? Like you're talking like $100 for an ice cream cone from this guy.
If he's Baskin
Really?
Robbins. Sure, yeah.
Holy.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
No.
He charges
$100.
thousands.
You're talking, I go up to Deepak Chopra. He's on the market.
Thousands
He's selling ice cream.
He's selling lectures.
Okay, let's say I want to buy an ice cream cone from him. How much would it be?
From Deepak?
From Deepak. On the market. We're in the market now.
$125 if you want a single.
Holy shit. You're allowed to beat him up. It's fine.
Oh, man. This has been Critical Junction, episode 49. I'm Mark.
I'm Deepak Chopra.
And I'm the universe.
I'm consciousness. As always, thanks for listening, and until next time, keep thinking differently.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.